Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart, and today we are talking about a triple Zelda rumor. So this rumor is coming from Nash Weedle, who, yeah, some people do not want to trust after the whole Nintendo Direct situation between February and March. However, it does not change the fact that Nash Weedle has also leaked things that have been correct that are not just random guesses, like he was actually the first to tease the recent Star Fox reveal for it to come out in June. And last year, he also leaked this technology that Nintendo is using to integrate with Game Chat that is in Star Fox. And so that's just some recent examples of leaks that he's gotten correct, not to say he gets everything right, obviously he hasn't with recent happenings. But the point is that if you look at the history of things, he does hear things that are accurate. Not always, for whatever reason, but he does. And so we're talking about this today, especially because there is some corroboration from someone else who has a more consistent track record, not as long of a track record, but from friend of the channel, Attack the Backlog. And so there's three different things going on here with three different Zelda projects. Supposedly, that's the rumor. It's a rumor, take it with a grain of salt, something that someone has heard, we'll see if it gets proven or not, but there's some interesting things going on here, so that's what I want to get into today. But first, here's a brief message. If you are like me, you probably don't like having too many unhealthy energy drinks. I remember one time I had a Red Bull at the wrong time, and let's just say, it did not give me wings. But maybe I'm a bit weird. I don't even like coffee. But I still gotta get up early in the mornings, I gotta find a way to focus with my work, keep myself going when I'm playing sports or working out, and at the end of the day, it would be nice if I still had some energy left over to play some games too. There is no replacing a healthy diet or good rest, but these powders from Drink Gamer Girl can certainly help and make for some tasty drinks with various flavors. Their energy powders provide clean energy. It's sugar-free and only 10 calories per serving with natural caffeine sourced from green tea. Then there is the focus powders. It's great to help you focus during your gaming or studying sessions, one of the standout ingredients being alpha GPC, known for supporting brain function and memory. And finally, there's the hydration powders providing all-day recovery. This one is caffeine-free, great for any time in the day, including workouts. It's an optimized electrolyte blend to help keep you hydrated. I use this one a lot. Drink Gamer Girl actually works with a lot of creators to create custom designs with flavors you can choose. For example, with the hydration powder, I have this delicious lychee flavor adorned with the channel logo. So if you're looking for some tasty yet healthy energy drink solutions, and maybe your own custom merch, check out Drink Gamer Girl using promo code DGG for 10% off one item or add 2 more to the cart for even more savings when you also click with the link in the description below. So Nash Weedle put out his latest Partida Zero, has his apologies about things he's gone wrong, but points out some other things, and the Partida Zero has a lot of other interesting gaming information, talking about different events, gaming history, but Nash does take the time to talk about some Zelda updates. And Attack the Backlog also chimed in with his own follow-up video, where he pointed out something regarding 2D Zelda that he had heard about earlier in the year. And so what Attack the Backlog had heard is that there is a 2D Zelda game in development, and there would be some kind of update on it in 2027. Perhaps it's revealed only in 2027, it comes out later, or it's revealed and it comes out. Under the assumption this information would be accurate, I would assume it would be revealed and come out in the same year, because something like a 2D Zelda game would have a quicker turnaround. This is exactly how it worked for Link's Awakening remake, it's exactly how it worked for Echoes of Wisdom. Very quick turnarounds here. They'll be revealed and come out just a few short months later. And so I wouldn't be surprised if this game ends up getting revealed in an early year direct next year, or in the summertime, and it comes out probably around September. Very similar to Link's Awakening remake and Echoes of Wisdom. And this is pretty much the update regarding this 2D Zelda thing from Nash. He's heard about this 2D Zelda project, he's talked about it before. Its codename is Bernard, following up the codenames of Richard and Edward, Richard being for Link's Awakening remake, Edward being for Echoes of Wisdom. So the implication being is that this is going to be a Grezzo-made game, meaning Grezzo's probably not helping out with the Ocarina of Time remake. They're working on the next 2D Zelda, and it's going to be something along these lines. And the new bit of info here is that Nash's hearing would be coming out in the second half of 2027. Now, in my time covering Nash Weedle, what I've noticed is that, yes, he does get legitimate information. There are times it's wrong, but there's many times it's accurate. However, a great deal of time when it comes to talking about future Nintendo projects and there being a projection of when it's going to come out, that projection has been inaccurate. And so in terms of timing here, I'm going to be skeptical. I mean, even just talking about the Star Fox thing, several outlets reported on the Star Fox reveal happening in April. Nintendo said no, and revealed it 6 days after April, which to me is very obviously just a small marketing shift, perhaps in response to the leaks or perhaps for other reasons. But point is, in terms of timing here, I'm skeptical. However, as I just explained, Link's Awakening Remake, Echoes of Wisdom were revealed sometime in the first half of their respective years, and then they came out September, later on into the year. So if this 2D Zelda game is truly in the works and is coming next year, that's kind of what I anticipate, because that's how it had worked for the other two. Now, there's been some theorizing and speculation that this 2D Zelda game would be centered around Ganon, or Ganondorf as the main character, which would be kind of a cute sort of triangle here, because Link's Awakening is centered on Link's adventure, and Echoes of Wisdom is on Princess Zelda's adventure. So if they round out this trilogy with a game where Ganondorf is a protagonist, that would be extremely interesting, especially because it'd be a huge opportunity to really expand upon the lore of Ganon or Ganondorf, his origins, and what led him to be who he would be. Of course, I would imagine that if this is actually the case, that this iteration of Ganondorf wouldn't actually be the villain, but they could probably still show that struggle where he's battling between good and evil. Maybe he's kind of an anti-hero, or maybe they do go on full villain here and you're just playing as the villain, which is something I wouldn't expect to come out from a Zelda series game, but, you know, I'm all for interesting ideas. Now, do I actually believe that this is what's happening? I'm very skeptical that they're going to do this. I love the idea of learning a lot more about Ganondorf's upbringing and getting just a lot more details about this character, but I just don't see any obvious connections here. Like, when we talk about the codenames, first of all, I don't think we should put too much value in the codenames for understanding exactly what the games are. I think really all it's an indicator of is who's working on it, and that there is some level of similarity in terms of the development process. And that some level could be a very, very small some level. Although, in the case of Echoes of Wisdom and Link's Awakening, with the code names of Edward and Richard, they had the same visual style, and they were both made by Grezzo. But these two names are connected, because Edward and Richard are known as the two princes in the tower. Bernard is a separate thing. Like, the naming scheme is similar, which would lead me to believe this is, yeah, another Grezzo-made Zelda game, but there is no Bernard in the tale of the two princes in the tower. There's Edward and Richard. That's it. So, looking into different Bernards, there is the Bernard that is the son of Charles the Fat, and Bernard never was made into a legitimate king because he was an illegitimate child. Which, you know, if this is the Bernard they're taking the codename from, maybe that could be kind of a hint towards a Zelda game focused on Ganondorf, because the whole theming is behind this illegitimate son of a king. Like, there could be something to that idea. What if literally this is like the offspring of Ganondorf, and so it's not actually Ganondorf, but someone who has that background and they teeter between good and evil because of their parent, but they go in another direction. That would be a fun, interesting idea, but that's just a lot of speculation. What I do think is clear, though, or at least pretty likely, yeah, Grezzo's probably working on the next 2D Zelda, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's not that far off. Nash did indicate this would be a new Zelda game, not so much a remake, although he didn't rule out what we've been hearing about a remake recently. Personally, I feel like a 2D Zelda remake is a bit more likely before the next new 2D Zelda, but we'll see what happens there. That's just part of this triple Zelda rumor update, though. So another recent update is really more so just a reminder that Nash had heard about the Ocarina of Time remake since 2022, and we've covered that in this channel. The rumors have been around for a while. We were theorizing about it even before the rumors, but the rumors have existed for a while, and so the implication is that this remake has been in development For a handful of years already, Nash thought this would be coming out in 2027 or even 2028 because he believed this to be a ambitious remake, which is what we have heard, that it's going to be a full remake, that it has a big budget from different people, or at least that's what they've heard. But Nash wasn't expecting this quick of a turnaround. Either way, this supposed remake has been in development for a few years now, which I think does help to fuel the idea that this is a big boy remake. This isn't like a simple thing. This isn't like getting a small team together and upscaling Ocarina of Time 3D. This is something that's going to most likely be, assuming the rumors are true, it's going to look like a modern game, at least to the level of what we're seeing with Star Fox here. But as I've been arguing over the last few days, what they're doing with the Star Fox game is kind of a big deal, because not only are they adding a brand new multiplayer mode and challenge mode, which is just straight up brand new content, while the campaign is a remake, there's tons of new lore details and visual adjustments here that, if they have that same level of effort for Zelda, would really be so great from a Zelda lore theory perspective that would make things extremely interesting. And then there's all the new story stuff they're adding with all the cutscenes, which would also be a very huge thing for an Ocarina of Time remake if they did something similar. And that's just assuming they do things to the same level here. I'm actually optimistic it might still be a little bit of a bigger deal. We'll see. If you are curious about the kinds of changes we could see in these Zelda remakes, I have been playing through Ocarina of Time and putting out these different episodes talking about all the changes that make sense at all the different points in Ocarina of Time. I've already put out 4 episodes, you can check it out. I'll have something in the iCard and the end screen. There's a lot to dissect and talk about with that. But on to the third part of this triple Zelda rumor here. Nash also says that there is another Zelda thing on the way, and that it has not been leaked yet. And so, when I think about that, what could be this other Zelda thing? It's not completely clarified if it's a game or not. I know people are assuming it is a game, but I just want to point it out there that maybe it's not a game, although in general that's usually what Nash will provide leaks for, so there's probably a greater chance that it's a game and versus not a game. So with that assumption in mind, and with this hint that it hasn't been leaked yet, what might that be? Well, if they're already working on a 2D Zelda, and they already have the Ocarina of Time remake, then what could be on the horizon? Well, we also assume that Nintendo is also hard at work on the next open-air Zelda game, but that has technically been leaked from Special Nick, which I assume Nash is aware of, and I don't really think that's really that big of a revelation. Of course Nintendo's working on the next open-air Zelda, but that would be some time from now, unless he's simply hinting at that they would be teasing the future of Zelda, perhaps for the Zelda 40th anniversary. That hasn't been leaked. That's been theorized that maybe they would tease that. Of course, I've been under the assumption that the Ocarina of Time remake, that alone is kind of a teaser for the future, seeing Zelda made with modern technology, showcasing those visuals, updating things here, perhaps getting some insight into the direction the Zelda team is heading perhaps somewhat similar to what we saw with Metroid Prime Remastered and the adjustments they made there for Metroid Prime. Like, to me, that alone is a teaser, but if they want to do, like, straight up, hey, we are working on the next open-air Zelda, I'm all for that. Of course, I'm not expecting that soon if we are getting the remake. Some people might mention the long-rumored, and I guess in theory leaked if they do come out, Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD, so I don't think that would count either. Now, something that hasn't been really leaked, just theorized, especially by me, is that Monolith Soft has been working on something Zelda related. Now, we know that they're already heavily involved with Zelda development with the mainline open-air Zeldas, and we've gotten even more insight into that recently with several different interviews talking about how much they've done with Tears of the Kingdom, and also another interview where the Zelda team talked about how they will want Monolith Soft to be more and more involved. And there's even been mention that Monolith Soft would be involved with the Ocarina of Time remake, which, considering all the support work Monolith Soft does, I don't think this would be necessarily too shocking, but we also assume others would be involved, and that level of involvement, that ratio, that would be very telling here. But there is this project that Monolith Soft was hiring for many years, since the beginning of the Switch 1 era. And people might take that to mean that it's not happening, but we also know factually that Metroid Prime 4, Mario Kart World, and Donkey Kong Bonanza were all games that were in development throughout the entire Switch 1 era. So, to say that another Nintendo title that hasn't come out yet wouldn't be well, we have several examples of games taking that long for whatever reason. Especially if they only started hiring for it, I would say that gives us more reason to think that they could be taking even longer. But these hiring posts from Monolith Soft had these bits of concept art that looked very Zelda. Like, it looked like we had the Hyrule insignia, it looked like we had the goddess statue, we have this other shot where it looks like a warrior princess Zelda, there's even a red dragon that perhaps you could compare to Valu. And so I've speculated that what if Monolith Soft has been working on this project. By the way, there is this codename leak from the Midori codename leaks, many of which have been proven true, for this Project Legacy by Monolith Soft, and that codename scheming doesn't match all the Xenoblade stuff, so this would suggest something else. There's been theories that maybe Project Legacy is indeed the Ocarina of Time remake, although that might suggest it's been in the works for an even longer amount of time, which seems unlikely. But perhaps this Project Legacy is Zelda related, but it's still its own thing at the same time. That's a theory I've had, it's something we've entertained. Could that be what this Nash hint is about? Possibly. It also could be something completely different, and also, this is still a rumor, it may not even be true at all. But of course, Nintendo's working on all sorts of different Zelda projects, and with Zelda's 40th anniversary this year, and the movie coming out next year, and then moving up the date, and the supposed remake coming out this holiday, like, we're headed into a big age of Zelda here, where there's going to be a big push, and so, similar to Mario, I'm sure Nintendo's planning different Zelda releases to capitalize on all this Zelda momentum. But those are my thoughts on this triple Zelda rumor. What do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. If you've gone this far and you found yourself enjoying the video and you haven't subscribed already, I would appreciate your subscription, but I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.